TSJ 101 Sports presents Center Ice Chats with your host, Jared Pettis.
Welcome to the first episode of Center Ice Chats St. Louis Blues Edition. I'm Jared Pettis along with Colin Willard. The first thing we're going to go over is yesterday's Blues game against the Dallas Stars. Colin, what did you think about that game?
It was bad. Very bad.
It was very bad.
But that's how most games have been recently.
Yeah, that is not a lie. Do you think Jake Allen could be the fault of this game, or do you think it was just poor team play?
I think it's probably 50-50. Allen is part of the team, so...
I do agree with that.
Yeah. From what I saw, Allen was not making the saves he should have been, but at the same time, the game-winning goal came on a 5-on-3, so I think that poor team play by taking bad penalties contributes to the loss.
And that the penalty that put it 5-on-3 was a slashing call against Zach Sanford. Many people thought it was a kind of a lazy call by the ref, but really, if you look at all the calls that have been made for slashing since they changed the rule for slashing, I think 2 years ago, what happened, his stick got into the hands of the Dallas forward, and every time that's going to get you called, and that led to the 5-on-3, which ultimately won the game for the Dallas Stars. But I mean, if you look at the Facebook comments, which I'm sure no one does,
I avoid those.
I also avoid those. Everyone was saying Jake Allen should have saved that puck, and that is probably the one time, actually maybe the one time that tonight or last night that I would have agreed with that. I think he should have saved that one. It went right through his 5-hole, and the second time was the third goal that Dallas scored in the second period. Well, the second goal in the second period, but the third goal of the game when Allen was in the vertical horizontal position up against the post. And I think it was Tyler Seguin that took the shot, and it looked like it went right through Allen, like a video game goal, like a glitch. And it went right through him, and he was pretty upset. He slammed his stick up against the post, breaking it. It just wasn't a good one. Do you have any take on that goal?
Yeah, it reminded me sort of like Allen was an outfielder who just misses the catch, because it was just like that, because he was in position but left just enough room open for the puck to get past him.
Yeah, I have no idea how that went in. That looks like a goal that I would allow when me and Jaden are playing street hockey. I would always allow those, and I'd be so confused on how it went in because I thought it was there, but I guess I left a little hole. But if you look at it, which this is audio, so I can't show a video. So he is in position. He's square to the it looks like he's square to the shot. Seguin goes down to the base of the circle, fires a wrist shot, and it goes off of Allen's glove. And when it goes off his glove, he kind of turns, and it went off his glove and somehow went to the far side of the net. And I don't know how it went in. When I watched it, I just said, I was like, how did that even go in? I had no idea. Some people did not blame Allen, and I don't know how anyone did, because those two goals that we just talked about have been the only two goals in probably the last couple weeks that I could have blamed Allen for, if you ask me. But that's just me, because for some reason, in front of Allen, the team plays poorly. But we saw 2 nights ago against Philadelphia in Philadelphia, the team played really good around Jordan Binnington when he got his first NHL win and his first NHL start, which was a shutout. So that was really good. Did you get a chance to watch that game?
I caught the end of the third period, about the last 7 minutes or so, and Binnington looked good from what I saw, and Philadelphia's been pretty weak lately, so I think that probably contributes to the Blues' ability to beat them, but at the same time, I don't want to take that away from Binnington, because from what I saw, he played a pretty good game.
Yeah, and I'm glad that he's finally getting his chance to show what he can do. He's been in the minor leagues for, I think 5 years. I think we drafted him in 2012. I'm pretty sure I can look that up real fast if you want me to. But I'm pretty sure we drafted him 5 years ago, and he's played well over 100 minor league games. Well over probably 300, I would assume.
Yeah, because Binnington's a strange case, because going into the season, if you would ask me, has Binnington started a game, I would have said yes, because he's been in the system for so long. But he's been passed up by so many goalies, and it's kind of strange why, when he's been in the system so long they haven't given up on him, but at the same time they've never given him a shot. And now with Chad Johnson gone, it looks like he's going to be the backup the rest of the season.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. He was drafted in 2011, so third round, 88 overall, obviously by St. Louis. He was passed up in our minor league system by Ville Husso, who I thought was going to be the best one to get the backup spot after Johnson had left. But when I looked at the stats, I was surprised he has lost. He lost the first. I know he started the first, I think, 9 games for San Antonio this year, and I think his record was 1-8. He was not doing good at all. And whenever I saw that, I knew they had started switching over to Jordan Binnington, and he's been doing really well. He's played 16 games, or is that wins? Yeah. He's played 16 games for San Antonio this year, and he's got a 208 goals against with a 927 save percentage, which is really good for the AHL. He was AHL Player of the Week, I think, last week or the week before.
Yeah, it was last week because he had a shutout in his last game in San Antonio, and then he came up and had a shutout in the NHL.
Yeah. And another person that I thought was going to pass him up was Evan Fitzpatrick, another Blues prospect, which he has not been doing too hot, I don't think. I think he was playing in the QMJHL last season. His team won the, I think it was Memorial Cup? MasterCard Memorial Cup, I think is what his team won. And he was the goalie that led him there, but I was reading an article this summer by, I think it was Craig Custance of The Athletic, about how Binnington or Evan Fitzpatrick looked like he might have lost his not ability, but lowered his prospect. I guess I can't think of the word, but anyways, he looked like he wasn't doing as hot until he got traded to his team. I can't think of what the team is, and I don't have time to pull it up while I'm talking about it now. But he said that Fitzpatrick surged there and led him to the MasterCard Memorial Cup and won it for him. And then that's when the Blues invited him to camp this past year. I was at a couple of the stuff, and he was there. I saw him, and then they moved him to the ECHL for the Tulsa Oilers or Tulsa Drillers, whatever our ECHL team is. And then I saw he got called up to the AHL, and the next week he was in the NHL for, I think, 1 game. He was backing up Allen. Yeah. And then it was back to Jordan Binnington, and Binnington got the start. So, I mean, Binnington's been through a lot. So, he's played in the minors. Binnington has since 2011 when it was Peoria Rivermen for the St. Louis Blues. Then he was back in the OHL with the Owen Sound. And played 2 games in the 2012-2013 World Juniors for Team Canada, and then went to the Chicago Wolves when it was the Blues minor league system, and then got his first game played in 2015-16, but didn't start, and has been up and down pretty much since then, and is finally getting his chance, and that's what I like to see. He's really decent. Not a good prospect, but he's. I mean, if we trade Allen, I don't think we will. He's a good guy to step in.
Yeah, Binnington's situation is similar to Jordan Schmaltz.
Yes, it is.
They were same draft year too. Schmaltz was first round.
Yeah, and he passed through waivers the other day.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that.
I was too,
because the Blues have never given him an NHL chance.
They really haven't until this year.
So I thought someone would.
Yeah.
And even then, it's not much of a chance that they've given him because he's continually been a healthy scratch.
Yeah, and when he's not a healthy scratch, he's a third pairing D player. I think I would give him a year, like how they gave Vince Dunn a year, but except Vince Dunn's gotten the starting opportunities this year. And, well, obviously because he was so good his first year, but he hasn't been too good this year. But I like to see Schmaltz get a whole year of NHL. Obviously with the team not being so good, I mean, you can put blame on 1 or 2 players here and there, like Bouwmeester, Schmaltz even, Allen. Tarasenko's getting some of the blame. But when a team's bad like it is, the entire team is going to be bad, and the stats are going to show that they're bad. And I believe that if they gave Schmaltz a chance to play a whole year, maybe by the end of the year and into the second year, he'd look better defensively. Like right now, he just looks like he's trying too hard in the defensive end, and he's turning the puck over a good amount of times, and sometimes that gets you sent to where it sent him. And I'm glad he passed through waivers, because when my brother told me that he was being placed on waivers, at the time I was like, wow, a team's going to pick him up and we won't be able to trade him then for anything. So I'm glad he passed through. Maybe we can get a 5th round out of him, but I think that's all we'll get.
Yeah, I assumed he was gone as well, but I saw speculation yesterday that since he passed through, that might make him more tempting to a team, since they can send him directly to their minor league affiliate.
Yeah.
But even then, he's not getting an NHL shot.
Yeah. I would like to see him have that NHL shot for a whole year, and I thought when he made the team this year, I mean, obviously it was due to the injuries, and Jay Bouwmeester wasn't himself after a surgery at the end of last season and into the summer, and Gunnarsson was out, and I figured, well, maybe he'd play decent enough to maybe keep a spot in the lineup and switch in and out with Gunnarsson, but I've seen Gunnarsson's probably having the best year of his career with the Blues this season, and it just didn't work out for Schmaltz.
Yeah, I thought Gunnarsson was a lot better last season, too, than he had been.
I agree.
So, I don't know why he's on the upward swing of his career at this point.
Either.
But
and that's the reason why Toronto got rid of him, because of the surgery. They didn't think he'd ever be himself again. And I think now he's probably working back into himself. And that could end up getting him a contract, or another contract with the Blues, which I think we might have extended him again. I'm not sure.
His contract ends after this season, it looks like.
Yeah, after the season. We have not extended his contract. I mean, honestly, the way he's playing right now, I'd like to see us extend him. But once again, with the way the team's playing, I don't think Doug Armstrong is going to extend anybody that's a UFA unless it's Jay Bouwmeester, and I really don't want him to extend Bouwmeester at all, which Bouwmeester's been playing a little bit better since the start of the season. But once again, we are halfway through.
I have to wonder if maybe Bouwmeester retires after this season, because his injury seems to still be bothering him at this point.
Yeah, I've been wondering the same thing, and I think if he doesn't retire, if he comes back, the only team that will probably re-sign him is St. Louis, and it'd probably be to maybe a 1-year deal worth, I'd say maybe $2 million at the most. I wouldn't even want him for that, honestly. But I mean, with the players leaving, we got, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gunnarsson has played a lot better in the past 2 years than he did when he first came. To me, this season, Bouwmeester last year and this year was, in my eyes, the whipping boy to the Blues fans. And this year it's Bouwmeester and Steen. Well, when Carl Gunnarsson first came over, for me, it was definitely Carl Gunnarsson. I was always like, Gunnarsson, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's played a really well, and I like seeing him on that top line with Alex Pietrangelo, because it gives Pietrangelo opportunity to jump up into the play and not have to sit back. And that's what I really like seeing from Pietrangelo, which is what we saw at the beginning of last year when he was in Norris talks.
Yeah, that's gone a long way.
Yeah, it really has, because now he is not up there. I think he still would have been up there if the Blues would have made the playoffs last season, but the poor play last year at the end of the year, obviously we know what it led to, and look where we're at now. Especially with Doug Armstrong's feeling right now, the way he is feeling, I feel like I know the feeling. So whenever I'm playing NHL 19 and I make a big, huge splash in the offseason, and I bring in several good players for my team whenever we make the playoffs, get knocked out in the first or second round, I'm like, all right, we're a couple pieces away. I'm going to reach into free agency, reach into my bag of tricks, and I'm going to maybe trade a couple good prospects for a few good players, kind of like Doug Armstrong did with Ryan O'Reilly.
Yes.
And I'll make a few good signings to strengthen my center core, my defensive core, except Army didn't reach in there and strengthen the D core too much, but he did work on the forward depth. And that never gets me anywhere in NHL 19, and I feel like that's what we're in. We're in a bad sim for Doug Armstrong right now.
Yeah, very bad sim. I think most people would agree that he really didn't need to add to the defense.
I agree as well. We had one of the best and the past 2 seasons we've had one of the best defensive depth and defensive stats.
Mm-hmm. And on paper, it looks like a great lineup, but obviously Bouwmeester has regressed, and that's been a huge hit to the D-core.
Yep. And Pietrangelo had no one to eat up those minutes with. I mean, obviously last season Edmondson did, but Edmondson hasn't looked that great this season.
Yeah, he's struggled.
Parayko's not shooting the puck as much as I'd want him to, and he's starting to do that again. After Mike Yo's firing, he started to step up his shooting. I think Craig Berube wanted him to do that. But really, we don't have a defenseman this year that has brought my attention into, wow, he's going to be a good scorer. Mm-hmm. Last season, Vince Dunn did really well. Yeah. Colton Parayko did really well. Joel Edmondson did really well with Alex Pietrangelo, and Pietrangelo did really well with Joel Edmondson whenever Bouwmeester was out. And then coming into this year, I was like, well, I'd like to see Eddie back on the first line with Petro, and I'd like to see Dunn with Parayko, and that would leave Bouwmeester and Gunnarsson. And I was like, well, that's going to be a little weak third pair. And then Gunnarsson was out, so I was like, well, if he's out, I prefer Bouwmeester on the line with Parayko, because last season when Bouwmeester was playing on the second line with Parayko, they were doing decent, and that just hasn't turned out this year. And we saw what happened with Butler and Schmaltz. Butler did okay, but I mean, for the NHL time that he got, which was a lot more than what he usually gets in a single season, he was just turning the puck over. He did have a few games where I was surprised by him and would have liked to see him play on the second line, but he was stuck to the third line, and as was Jordan Schmaltz, and now they're both in the AHL. I think Butler might be a healthy scratch, but I'm pretty sure he's back in the AHL. I haven't seen much on him yet.
He's not on the roster right now.
Oh, he's not? Okay.
No.
So...
yeah, he and Jordan Nolan passed through waivers.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Nolan, he was a surprise to me. Whenever we signed him, I was like, wow, no idea who this guy is. And he came up and played while Fabry was injured and Steen was hurt. And it got him a couple months of playing time. And he really surprised me. I like seeing him skate around the ice and hit some people, especially whenever we needed that spark in the lineup. And when we're down, we need someone that will... bring out the emotions of the other team and get them off their game. And I really liked Jordan Nolan. And then when we set him down, I was like, well, I knew it was because Steen and Fabry were coming back, but I really would have liked to see him up in the NHL right now, honestly. But I don't know where he'd fit in.
Yeah, that's the thing with the lineup is there really isn't a balance of the bigger physical players and the more skilled players. Patrick Maroon really hasn't found a fit.
No, he really has not. And I didn't think he would when we were playing him on the first line at the start of the year. That only lasted 4 games, which he was on the first line with McDavid. So I was like, well, maybe he'll get in there and get some good playing time.
Yeah, I guess the Blues don't really have the McDavid talent, though. So
no, yeah.
McDavid could probably make me look good on his wing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think he can make a blind person look good on his wing, honestly. So, well, and speaking of Patrick Maroon, here's a good segue, I guess. I actually read an article yesterday, or 2 days ago, by Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic about how Maroon could possibly be the first Blue to go this season. But it'd have to be after January 31st when his full no trade or no movement clause ends, and he gets a 8-team no trade list. So I don't want to see him go, but for the season that he's having and how he's betting on himself, I think it'd be best for him to find a new team. I just don't know what we could get out of him. I was reading might be a 5th round pick.
Yeah, he's been traded on the deadline before, and I think
last season. From Edmonton to New Jersey.
He got a 3rd round pick, didn't he?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Yeah, and obviously he's not putting up the same numbers, so you'd have to set your expectations below a 3rd round pick.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised with a 5th round pick, honestly.
Yeah, the Maroon situation is interesting since he's from St. Louis. It's kind of a personal matter. He supposedly took a pay cut since the Blues were against the cap to come here over the summer.
Yeah.
And
that helped us sign Joel Edmondson.
Yeah, and there were rumors of like a possible extension already being mapped out.
That is actually illegal.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have surprised me at the time, honestly.
Yeah.
The way everyone thought the Blues were going to be.
Yeah, and I don't know how that's affecting the relationship between Maroon and management, if Maroon will cause problems if they try to trade him, or if he will accept a trade just about anywhere that's going to be in the playoffs, because that would make the most sense for him, and he could always come back and next season if he has a good playoff run.
Yeah. And he could play really well in that playoff run, maybe, and get another $3 million contract, which is what I thought the Blues were going to offer him, which would leave us with nothing to sign Edmondson at the time. And I figured we'd have to maybe trade a defenseman to keep Edmondson.
Yeah.
But he signed for 1.25, I think, or 1.275 or something.
Oh, 175.
175. I knew it had a 7 in it. But I think a good team that would fit Maroon, or a good team that Maroon would fit with, would probably be Buffalo, because they lost Berglund, obviously, because he did not want to play in Buffalo, that's another story for another time. But if you look at Buffalo's cap friendly, they don't really have a scoring winger, and I know Maroon does not look like a scoring winger this year, but if he gets on a line with a decent scorer, like say Jeff Skinner, who's obviously playing on the first line, or Jack Eichel, who is the center of the first line. Maroon, it's just like watching him play with McDavid, except not McDavid.
Yeah, well, it's interesting.
And they have like Poso, who's kind of regressing.
It's interesting you bring up Maroon and Skinner and Eichel, because there's talk that Buffalo might have to trade Skinner. That was happening more before they lost the Berglund contract, because they were in a cap bind.
Yes.
So they might be able to work it out. But if they can't, they could trade Skinner for assets and then get Maroon to replace him for the season, which that's a significant downgrade, but Maroon has shown that he can play with top talent like Eichel. So
yeah. And right now, the Sabres have $2 million, $2.85 million in cap space right now, according to Cap Friendly. So all they would need to do is they can't send their third. It's a conditional pick. They don't really have a draft pick to trade. They have the sixth. They're sixth this season. Toronto's sixth, and they're seventh this season. They don't have a third for 2020. We could take their fourth for next year. But I would also like to see a package deal where we get our pick back, which we'd have to send over a lot to Buffalo to get our own pick back. But it is top 10 protected, so. And that Ryan O'Reilly deal. But imagine this, before you talk real quick, I'm sorry. So, say our pick is like maybe top 5. We get our own pick back.
Mm-hmm.
We draft a bona fide scorer or a bona fide playmaker or a center. I'd like to see Jack Hughes. That's just me, though. He's going first overall.
I think everyone likes to see Hughes.
I would like Kako. Sorry about that. We'll edit that out. And but say we get our pick, and we pick a player, and if we get our pick back, then Buffalo gets our 2020 first-round pick. And say we're worse in 2020 because Armstrong's thinking about blowing up the team. And say that 2020 pick becomes first overall. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but we're in a situation where it's Ottawa, Colorado, with the Matt Duchene trade. And for those of you who don't know, Ottawa traded Nashville, Kyle Turris. Nashville traded Colorado, Samuel Girard. And Ottawa got Matt Duchene from Colorado. And Colorado from Ottawa got their 2018 first-round pick with a condition. Ottawa could pick a player with that one, and then Colorado would get 2019's pick. Ottawa went ahead and drafted Brady Tkachuk, which in my eyes was a good pick by Ottawa.
Yeah.
And but that left Colorado with 2019, the first round pick in 2019 from Ottawa, which coming into the season looked like it was going to be probably first overall because Ottawa traded Erik Karlsson. But actually, Ottawa's playing somewhat decent right now. Well, I think they're probably basement in the NHL.
Yeah, I think they are.
But, they're not playing decent anymore. At the start of the season, I was surprised with their play, but we see that won't happen. But just say the Blues are in that situation. Would you rather us finish 10th overall, get our pick back, and then get passed up by a team behind us and lose that 10th overall pick to which would be 11th overall if a team passed us in the draft lottery, and see it given to Buffalo and get our pick next year? Or would you rather us be super bad and have our pick this year and hopefully not be worse next year?
Well, I think the thing that enforces my decision, which would be to take this year's pick, is that this roster is a lot better than they've played.
Yes.
And I think that if you switch out a few players, then next season you can be a playoff team easily.
I agree. The problem, though, I see with being a playoff team next year is if we trade Alex Pietrangelo. And I guess his rumors have kind of regressed as of late, but there were rumors that he might be going to Toronto, and that would be, a good landing spot for him because Toronto needs that defenseman, that big right-handed defenseman, unless Pietrangelo's left-handed. I'm pretty sure he's right-handed.
He's right-handed.
That's why Parayko hasn't played with him. A lot of people are saying do that and we'll get Nylander. We will not get Nylander if we trade Alex Pietrangelo, especially with the season Pietrangelo is having. And I know Nylander's not having that good of a year, but he just signed a huge, long contract extension with Toronto. And like Kyle Dubas, their new GM, has said, they won't get rid of the top three, now four with John Tavares, Matthews, Nylander, and Marner. And so there is no possible way we are going to get William Nylander, especially even if we're trading Pietrangelo's cap. We're going to get one that's basically the same, a little more expensive, though, with Nylander. But we'll have him for longer, and then we'll be in a cap crunch again next season.
And a hole on defense.
And they'll have a hole on defense. And everyone says Pietrangelo's not that good, but Jeremy Rutherford has said it many times on Twitter and in his articles that if we move Pietrangelo, that is when we will know that we have messed up because of how good Pietrangelo is, even though he's not playing too hot. I don't know about you, but a good player I'd like to get from Toronto is Nazem Kadri or Connor Brown. Those are the two that light up in my eyes. Obviously, those are forwards.
Yeah.
But they don't really have a defenseman that they can move, except for Jake Gardner. But I don't think they'll move him, especially this season.
Well, I think if they move Pietrangelo, they have to get another right-handed defenseman because that would leave Parayko and Bortuzzo on the roster. So
yeah,
you'd have to have someone playing offside every game.
Yeah, that is true. They could move Ron Hainsey, but I don't really want Ron Hainsey. He's 37 years old, and he's not playing too well for them. But he is getting, I think, last season he was getting top-line minutes with Morgan Riley. So
that's Stanley Cup winner, Ron Hainsey.
Yeah, true. Martin Marincin, he's a 7th D, pretty much.
Yeah, so I think the right-handed defenseman would probably have to come from somewhere else, or even from the minors, because if you move Pietrangelo, you're pretty much saying this season's done.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Which, honestly, I don't know, the way we're playing right now, there is still a chance that we lose that pick to Buffalo. So, in my eyes, if it's going to make us worse and help us get Jack Hughes or Capo Caco, I'm all for moving everyone, honestly. But yeah. I don't want to move Pietrangelo, and I don't want to move Tarasenko or O'Reilly. Those are my three that I would keep. Schenn would probably be the easiest to move.
And he's actually been the guy in a lot of rumors recently.
Yeah.
I've seen him connected to Boston as the big one. There are reliable reports that discussions have happened between the Blues and Bruins regarding Brayden Schenn.
I did see that. Back to Pietrangelo, I also saw that he could go to Pittsburgh, which would be a surprise to me because Pittsburgh, if I can find them on Cap Friendly right here, they are in a cap bunch. They only have $116,000 to move or to work with, but Pietrangelo could go there, and we could get on defense. I'd take Ole Mata.
Yeah,
he's young, 24. I would take Jamie Alexiak. He's young. I would definitely take Chris Letang, but they're not gonna. He's gonna
Yeah,
no move
it's not going
clause.
to be Pietrangelo for Letang.
Yeah, no, that's like people saying Pietrangelo for Nylander. On the forwards though, for Pittsburgh, they were talking about moving Phil Kessel. I don't think that would ever happen. We'd have to send over like 3 first-round picks, I feel like.
Yeah, I would love to see Phil Kessel in a Blues jersey.
Oh, me too.
But I don't see any way that happens.
No. The only logical forward I could see us getting maybe is Riley Sheahan.
2-goal Riley Sheahan.
Yeah. I would say Tanner Pearson, but they just got him in a trade. I would have liked to have Carl Hagelin. That's just me, though. He's not producing this year, but when he's on, he's on. Derek Brassard, he's aging, and he's got a modified no-trade clause. I doubt we'd be on that since we're so bad. I doubt we'd not be on that no-trade list. But back to Brayden Schenn. You said Boston.
Yes.
Now, who do you think we could get in return if he went to Boston?
One of the players that I saw mentioned that caught my eye was Dan Heinen, because I think he's a second-year center, and he had a really good year last year. I had him on my fantasy team, and
yeah,
he was one of those under-the-radar players that I picked up early and got me a lot of points. And I know real life isn't fantasy teams, but
no.
I think he would be a good fit and would allow the Blues to maybe move away from someone like Tyler Bozak, not this year, but in the future.
Yeah.
Or he acts as a solid replacement for Schenn.
I agree. Would you take David Beckus back? I wouldn't take him at his $6 million contract. I'd maybe want him to retain half, but I would, if they were retaining half, I would give Schenn and a pick.
I don't think Boston would do that.
I don't think they would either. But that would open up a center or right wing spot for Schenn. Although Beckus does have a no-move clause, I feel like he would come back to St. Louis, though.
Yeah. I also think that moving Schenn would open up a higher spot in the lineup for Thomas, which would be good.
That would be really good. And then you could play Beckus at the fourth line.
Mm-hmm.
But then we'd have Barbashev.
Yeah,
that I also want playing.
Yeah, Barbashev has had a really good year.
He really has.
He's
Him
been
and
one of the-
Sundqvist.
Yeah, they've been the few bright spots.
Yes, they have. Robert Thomas, his stats may not show he's having a good year, but the way he's been playing, he's getting more confidence. Especially with the time that he's been playing, it's bumped up a little bit, I think, over the last month. I would really, really like to see Jordan Kyrou back in the NHL.
As would I, but he's having a good year with the Rampage, so I
He really
think...
is. He was invited to the AHL All-Star game.
Oh, I didn't
just
catch
saw
that.
Yeah, it was. They said it on the game last night. I would, from Boston, really like to get Jacob Forsbacka Karlsson.
Yes, I've heard a lot of good things about him.
Yeah,
from Bruins
it'll
fans.
take a lot, though, to get him. I would assume it'd be... I think the only way we get him is if we send him Pietrangelo, but they really don't need a defenseman over
No.
there. Would you take Chara from Boston just for this season?
No, because they don't need him this season.
Yeah. Well, if we trade Pietrangelo, then that'd be a...
Nice fill-in.
Yeah, but we'd also have to get a draft pick from Boston. I'd say a second and Chara for Pietrangelo. Or would you take a first and Chara? See, I don't want Chara, but if we decide that Boston's a good fit for Pietrangelo, then...
Seems blasphemous for the Bruins to trade Chara.
It also does. Captain for captain. Obviously, one captain might be a little better than the other. Not playing-wise, but leadership-wise. Yeah, that would not be a good pick, or a good trade for Boston. So, speaking of the AHL All-Star Game, we're going to flip it over now to the NHL All-Star Game, and Ryan O'Reilly was named to the NHL Central Division All-Star team from the Blues.
Well-deserved.
It is well-deserved. He's been... Okay, besides Thomas and Kyrou in our future and looking bright, and Sundqvist and Barbashev playing really well, O'Reilly, to me, has been the only player that is 26 or up that has looked like he is playing to play, which is odd because last season in Buffalo, he stopped playing pretty much because he said he had lost which scares me because he has not been on a winning team his entire career.
Yeah.
And he comes to us and we play garbage. But hey, he's in the All-Star team, and at least we got somebody good representing us.
Yeah, and he's had a terrific season, and I think that if like I said earlier, the team can turn it around next year, then we won't have to worry about O'Reilly losing his spark.
I would really love to see him in the playoffs.
I would too. He deserves it.
Obviously, that won't happen this year. Let me pull up his cap friendly or his hockey, the hockey reference page for him real fast. But I know in Boston or Colorado, I think they may have made the playoffs 1 or 2 years with O'Reilly. O'Reilly, I did not know he had 40 points in 41 games.
Yeah, he's been point per game, I think, most of the season.
Yeah, he's really
been
has
consistent.
And it's been really fun to watch. He's the only one I've enjoyed watching this season, really. Not even kidding. Him, well, obviously besides the fourth line that we have, I really enjoyed watching them. Playoffs. He's only made the playoffs twice in his career with Colorado, 2009 and 2010 and 2014. When they were both knocked out in the first round. 1 in 6 games, he had 1 point, and 1 in 7 games, he had 6 points that round. Yeah, I would really like to see us play in the playoffs. Obviously, when he was, I think he either signed in Buffalo or he was traded in the offseason. But at the time, they were not a good team. And when they got Eichel, everyone thought they were going to be a good team, and they had no goaltending. Absolutely. I think on this season, if Buffalo had him, they would be probably top 3 in the division. But obviously they traded him and to us, and look where we're at.
Yeah.
So this is going to be craziest hot take you'll ever hear. Would you say Ryan O'Reilly might be the reason his teams never make the playoffs?
You think like a curse?
Yeah.
Well,
is it the O'Reilly curse?
I'm not really superstitious, but if anything would make me believe it might be this, because I can't believe that this team has played so poorly. So,
yeah.
But at the same time, O'Reilly, it's like he sucks the talent out of everyone else.
I don't know about. See, I was thinking earlier this season. I was thinking about that. I was like, maybe it's O'Reilly because I don't remember him ever being in the playoffs. Yeah. And I just looked it up, and he's only been twice. But the team that he was with in Colorado was not decent then. And then in the draft, they got McKinnon while he was there. They had Landeskog. I think he might have got drafted. I'm not sure, actually. But I know they had no one on defense. They had Varlamov in net for a couple years while O'Reilly was there. But they didn't have much on defense. And Colorado still really does not have much on defense. You got to think maybe they're wanting to put in a trade for Pietrangelo, but I don't see Armstrong making a deal with this Central Division team.
Yeah, probably not, but Colorado is really thin on defense. I know they've got Girard and Johnson. Well, the Johnson trade was before Colorado was in the division.
Yeah.
But it's happened before.
Yeah. Then O'Reilly went over to Buffalo, and 15-16, Buffalo had nobody. That was the year that they were basically tanking against Edmonton and still lost the draft lottery.
Yeah.
To Edmonton and ended up with Eichel instead of McDavid. Imagine the Sabres with McDavid.
They definitely would have made the playoffs by now.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think they're getting better. I think Eichel got what he needed and Jeff Skinner on the wing.
Absolutely.
For sure. And now they got their defensemen too. I was about to say they need defensemen, but they have Ristolainen. They have Rasmus Dahlin, the first overall pick last season. Buffalo is set. All they need really, Carter Hutton, he's, I guess, doing okay for them. He was doing really good at the start of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they need maybe a bona fide starting goalie, and they might have that in Linus Ullmark, but I'm not for sure.
I think they're a team to watch around the trade deadline. I think they're going to make some moves and probably just add a lot of depth.
Yeah. What would you say about the Blues trading Tyler Bozak this season?
I don't see it happening this season. Either. I think if next season starts off how it is, or even during the off season, I could see it, but I don't think it's going to happen during this season.
I also don't think it'll happen. But everyone on Twitter and on Blues Twitter, on Jeremy Rutherford's articles in the comments section and on his Q&A discussions are always asking about Bozak getting traded. And I'm always sitting there, I'm like, I really don't want to see Bozak getting traded. He has not produced a lot, but for the third line that he's on, I mean, he does decent work in the defensive zone. And I don't know. I actually like Bozak.
Yeah, he's been solid. I was actually looking. He is 5th on the team in points, which I would not have expected before looking, but it's only 18 points. So,
yeah,
about 0.5 per game.
Which is, I mean, obviously that doesn't sound good, but when the team is not producing, everyone's points are going to be lower.
Yeah.
And all the fans are like, trade Tarasenko, trade Pietrangelo, don't trade O'Reilly, trade Schenn. I don't think I've seen anyone want to trade Schenn. Maybe a couple, but I haven't seen too many. Maybe just because he's got value right now because, last season I don't think he really has that much value anymore because of the season he's had this year. But when your team is not doing this hot, no player is going to have value. No player. If you look at Edmonton, all their trades, which, I mean, it is the GM, Peter Chiarelli, not giving his players any value, but, I mean, Tanner Pearson for the Pittsburgh trade between LA, Carl Hagelin, I think LA could have got a draft pick out of it and with Carl Hagelin.
Yeah.
But since LA is not doing too hot, Pittsburgh might have been like, look, you're not doing too hot. We're doing okay. I'll give you Hagelin for Pearson. And the LA GM was like, well, can I get a draft pick? And Jim Rutherford for Pittsburgh might have been like, are you kidding me? He's not worth it. But, I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't like talking trades because you never know what the value is. Mm-hmm. And if the Ryan O'Reilly trade, I think maybe we got him under his value because of what the comments that he made at the end of last season about how he didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him. He was with the Sabres, who were tanking once again to get the first overall pick, and they actually won it that time.
They did.
But I don't know. I'm just afraid that we trade Pietrangelo or Schenn or even Tarasenko. His name has come up in some rumors, and I really do not want to trade Tarasenko because as soon as we trade him, he'll be up to that 40-goal pace.
Yeah.
Even though he probably won't make it this year, but he'll be up to it, and he could score 50 with another team, I would assume. Yeah,
he'll be the next former Blue to win the Cup.
Oh, for sure. Him or Pietrangelo, one of the two.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the one time I've done this, and I forget all the number of players, former Blues, that have won the Cup. I might write an article about this. But last season, in the Stanley Cup final, there were 4 former Blues in the final. Mm-hmm. Lars Eller, TJ Oshie, Ryan Reeves, and David Perron.
Phoenix Copley, too.
Phoenix Copley, yeah. Well, no, he wasn't the backup then for Washington. He was on their roster.
He still won the Cup.
Yeah, he still got a ring. If you look, I actually saw this tweet today. I want to bring it up before we move on. It was a tweet by Jeremy Rutherford, and it says, the Capitals tweeted out a picture of Phoenix Copley. In his last 13 games, Copley is 10-1-1, and in his last 7 appearances, he's 6-0-1.
I saw that, too. That's another guy that passed up Binnington on the depth chart at one point.
Yeah, when we got him in the trade for Oshie. We got him in the trade for Oshie. He was one of the returners. And Jeremy Rutherford tweeted, different team, so apples and oranges. But sending Copley back to Washington and the Shattenkirk deal is something he still does not understand. The Blues had Allen and Hutton in St. Louis, Binnington, Husso, Opilka, who actually retired because of hip problems, Evan Fitzpatrick in the system, but no prospect was as close as Phoenix Copley, which he's right. He is 110% right. Phoenix Copley was the closest depth goaltender that was closer to making the NHL roster. And if we would have kept him, I mean, Jordan Binnington would not have got a shutout, but we might not have signed Chad Johnson, who is now with Anaheim, still wearing his St. Louis Blues mask.
Is he still?
He is.
Wow.
I think he's got different goalie pads, but he's still wearing his Blues mask.
I love that.
I do. I also love it. I like the mask. The mask was sexy. But I don't know. I think that trade, sending Shattenkirk and Copley over to Washington, was not a really good deal. Which, I mean, I guess it worked out at the time. We made the playoffs. got knocked out in the second round, basically because Nashville outskated our defensemen. And Allen didn't play the greatest in that one, but he got shelled in the first round against Minnesota.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we might have a decent backup right now, and Allen and Opilka, that duo, might not have us where we're at right now. Like, right now, it was, at the start of the season, it was Allen, Johnson. Johnson was 2-6 with us, which is very bad. Then it was Allen and Binnington, and Allen played 9 straight games until Binnington got his first start. I mean, obviously it was a shutout, which is good. I like seeing that, but I don't know. I'm just saying we might be in a better spot with Copley. Might not be in a playoff spot, and we might not end up getting our first round pick if we still have Copley.
Mm-hmm.
So,
who do you think is going to start the next game?
Ooh, I'd say it's probably Allen.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see Jordan Binnington.
I think everyone would.
I agree. I think everyone would. I was at the start of the game last night. I was like, I think the next game Allen will start. Then after the third goal was allowed, I was still thinking Allen, but now that I think of it now, I'm pretty sure it'll probably be Binnington that'll start. And at the start of the season, I was saying I'd like to see Allen have the starting spot no matter what goes on. That way, if we play terrible and miss the playoffs, it's on him.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're playing terrible as a team, and it's not just him.
Mm-hmm.
So that really doesn't help. But, I mean, for his confidence, I think you have to go with Binnington, even though it's pulling a Mike Yeo if you say you want him to gain confidence and then bench him, like they did with Robert Thomas,
mm-hmm.
who is now playing really well and does have confidence because he's getting playing time. Thank you, Craig Berube. It's really, in my eyes, it's probably a lose-lose. I mean, Binnington played really well in his game against Philadelphia, which surprised me because I thought we were going to lose. And I don't know. Who are we playing next?
Montreal tomorrow, which is Thursday.
Actually, we might have a chance in that game.
The thing to consider with who starts next game is Saturday's game is against the Stars again. So they might want to save Binnington for that.
Yeah.
Since Allen just flopped against the Stars.
Yeah, I agree. I would rather see Allen in net against Montreal. I mean, obviously they're not doing too hot. They're doing better than us. I think they're in a playoff spot. They might not be because of the wild card.
They are. They're in the last wild card.
Well, so is Dallas. So basically, we're going up sort of kind of against the same team,
mm-hmm.
basically. Not really, obviously.
Not the scoring talent of the Stars.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, like, points position-wise, and they're both in the last wild card spot. Dallas might actually not be. The last time I checked, they were. And with the win last night, I think they are. But
no, they're in a division spot.
Oh, Dallas is?
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
well, not really, but
Western wild cards are Colorado and then Minnesota.
Speaking of Dallas, they got the 2020 NHL Winter Classic.
Yes.
And it has not come out yet who they will play. I read an article saying that it was likely going to be a team with star power for the viewers, even though Dallas has star power.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact it's not Chicago because in that same article it was said that it wasn't going to be Chicago. So who do you think would be that team?
It's probably not going to be anyone that really makes a whole lot of sense to play the Stars. It'll probably be someone like Washington and Ovechkin.
Yeah. I was thinking Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh makes sense. They've played several outdoor games, so have the Capitals. The team that would make the most sense from like an event perspective, like make it interesting, like a rivalry, would be Minnesota because you have the old North Stars, but they don't have the star power, and it would be weird for Minnesota's first Winter Classic to not be in Minnesota.
It really would.
So,
I mean, they've had the Stadium Series before, but I think that was against Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in Minnesota, wasn't it?
I think it was. They've had one.
Yeah. I was thinking. Well, thinking of star power. The Blues have star power.
Yeah.
The Blues have already been in one, and the ratings were a smash hit. But that's because Chicago was playing. I would really like to see St. Louis away, but I don't think Dallas. Because if I wanted to do a rivalry, Dallas and Minnesota would make sense. Star power. Minnesota has Parise, Dubnyk, who is somewhat.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm probably forgetting somebody. Charlie Coyle, Ryan Sutter. But, I mean, I would really... Obviously, as a Blues fan, I want to see St. Louis in it. But after this season, I definitely don't think it'd be St. Louis.
Yeah.
Because I think in the same article, it was like it's going to be a decent team that makes the playoffs with star power. Which the Blues obviously are having a down year. We have star power. And if we make the playoffs, then we're going to be... Obviously, we were not going to make it this year. But if we would have, it'd be a decent game to watch, Dallas and St. Louis. But I honestly don't know. You have San Jose, who's got, right now, Erik Karlsson, but they need to re-sign him if they do. They have Evander Kane, Joe Thornton, but they'll need to re-sign him.
He might retire,
He might also. I was reading something on him. They got Joe Pavelski.
Mm-hmm.
That's Burns. Martin Jones, who has not played good at all. Played really well a couple years ago, got into the Cup final, and then has not played that good since.
Speaking of Cup final, I think that if it's not going to be Minnesota, which I'm pretty sure it's not, I think my preference would be for Nashville or Vegas.
Oh, Nashville. Did not even think of them.
Yeah, because they're kind of geographically linked with the South with Nashville and Dallas, and then the West with Dallas and Vegas.
Yeah.
And they're kind of non-traditional markets, so the recent boost from their cup runs would be something to consider, or to put them in consideration for Dallas's opponent. And they do have the star power, and they've got the recognition with being recent frontrunners for the cup.
Yeah. Yeah, those are two good options. Tampa Bay, obviously it's not like same conference, but we've seen out-of-conference Winter Classics.
Yeah.
We just saw one, Chicago and Boston, Chicago, Washington. But, yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay would be a good one. They got star power.
Yeah.
And they're going to make the playoffs this year. They're going to win the President's Trophy. They are going to win the President's Trophy. They're like 10 or 12 points over the team in second, which was Toronto last night when I looked. Speaking of 2020, the Blues got that All-Star game.
Yes.
They're hosting the 2020 All-Star game, and let me tell you, I am going to do everything in my power to get tickets to that.
Yeah, I'm not so interested in the All-Star game, but I would definitely like to go to the skills competition.
Yes, me too. I got an email yesterday from the Blues PR about the people that will get the first dibs at the All-Star game tickets, which I don't like ever seeing first dibs, but it's the same way with the playoffs. The Blues started selling playoff tickets last year, I'm pretty sure, and missed the playoffs. I know the Cardinals did, but the season ticket holders get first dibs, and I understand where it's coming from. It's season ticket holders. They're the prestige fans, prestige in quotations, and they'll get their first pick. And I'm just afraid that they're going to buy all of them and then sell them on StubHub for outrageously prices, like basically what they were doing with playoff tickets a couple years ago when we got to the Western Conference Final. I bought upper-level seats to that Western Conference Final, like 3 rows from the very back. Each ticket was like $150. I ended up spending so much money on those tickets. It was insane. But hey, and it was not really even worth it. We got shut out 4-0 against the Sharks in Game 2 when I went. That would be a great All-Star weekend, really, to go to, see all the things that they have, all the skills competition, all the NHL players that are going to be in that. And then the All-Star game, which I don't like watching the All-Star game on TV that much because the defense doesn't try.
Yeah.
But, I mean, in person, I'm sure it'd be a really good experience.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Yeah. Well, do you want to cover the article or?
Sure.
All right. So we're going to get into one of our last topics that was supposed to be one of our first topics, but I kind of skipped over it. It's not going to hurt anybody, though, that I did that. All right. So my latest article covering the 2018 calendar year for the Blues, which is, in my eyes, probably one of the worst calendar years that this team has had in franchise history. If you look at it as a total, I got my notes here, the Blues played 77 games in all of 2018, which is of all 31 NHL teams, the fewest. The record was 35-34 and 8, or 35-35 and 8. I actually, for some reason, miscalculated. Missed the game, and when I wrote the article, I had to go in and fix it, and I didn't fix it on any of these. I missed the last game of 2018, December 31st, that game. For some reason, it didn't include it when I put it in on NHL.com. They had 208 goals for, which was the fewest in all of 2018, and allowed 242, which was not the most, but not the fewest at all. And the power play percentage was... Hang on, let me pull up my article real fast. All right, so the power play for the Blues over the entire 2018, obviously Mike Yeo did not run a good power play, and that's bled over into the power play with Craig Berube. 18.0% for the power play, and which that is good for 21st in the league over that stretch. Penalty kill percentage was 77.4%, which is good for right around 23rd in the NHL over that time. But the faceoff percentage has been the silver lining, and I stated that in the article. It's 51.7%, which is 9th in the league. It might be 8th. My notes are a bit off. It's around 8th or 9th in the entire league. And it was really good before we even had O'Reilly. In the first half, the faceoff percentage was 51.4%, which was 9th in the league. I did not know that the Blues were this bad over the course of the year until I started researching this.
Yeah, it was as soon as Schwartz got hurt last December.
Oh, yeah.
That the team just took a nosedive.
Nosedive, for sure. It was like... Okay, if you look at the stocks and over the Great Depression, how they just plummeted, that's how the team did. That's literally how the season went last year.
Yeah, Schwartz was having a career year.
Schenn was too.
Yeah. Well, Schenn was...
He ended up still having a career year.
He did well all season. He was one of the bright spots at the end of last season.
I think the only bright spot.
Yeah. And after Schwartz got hurt, everything fell apart, and they still haven't recovered.
Mm-hmm. But in the first half, January 1st to the end of last season, April 7th, the Blues scored 106 goals, which was the fewest from that stretch, and 41 games, which was tied for the fewest games with Arizona. They had a record, though, of 20-17-4, which was decent, but the last two big losses came to Chicago and Colorado. And if they would have at least got to overtime in that Chicago game where Duncan Keith scored with like 8.4 seconds to go, they would have made the playoffs. All they had to do was get to overtime of that game, and they didn't even do that. They allowed 120 goals. Their power play percentage was 15.4%, which was 28th in the league. 75.7% was the penalty kill, and that was 23rd in the league. But their faceoff percentage, like I said, was 9th in the league. In the second half, which is the start of this 2018-19 season, all the way until December 31st. If you look at the stats through then, we had a record of 15-18-4. We played 37 games, which is the fewest. We have 101 goals for, which is the 5th worst in the league. 120 goals against. The power play percentage is 20.3%, which is right around 13th in the league, which is getting better. Mm-hmm. But in our last, I think, 19 power play attempts, that's also into this part of the year, we have not scored a single one. Penalty kill was 78.7%, which is right around 20th. And the face-off percentage is 52.1%, which is 6th in the league, which is really good. But in this half we have O'Reilly. Last half we had Schenn, Brodziak, Barbashev even, and then we had Stastny for a quarter of that half. Yeah. And then
Sobotka.
We had Berglund. I completely forgot about Berglund. Every time I see Tyler Bozak, I'm like, oh, Berglund. And it's still, even this far into this season. But there were new faces for the second half. Ryan O'Reilly, Tyler Bozak, Pat Maroon, David Perron didn't play any last year because he was with Vegas. Chad Johnson, the goalie. Jordan Kyrou, who I think he played nine games maybe, or right around there. Because if he would have played 10, he would have lost a year on his entry-level contract. I think this is the last year it will extend.
Kyrou?
Kyrou, yeah.
I didn't think his contract was sliding anymore.
Oh,
since
yeah,
he's
it
in
might not be.
the minors.
Yeah, and I think it slides until you're 21. I think that's when it stops. And I think he is. We have Robert Thomas, Robbie Fabry, who was out all last year and the year before, Jordan Binnington, and Jordan Nolan, who is back down in the minors. And in this time, Ryan O'Reilly has led the team in points. David Perron is second, and he's 10 behind O'Reilly. He's got 25. O'Reilly has 35. O'Reilly also leads the team this season, or if he doesn't lead the team, he's one of the top ones, and plus minus, he's plus 6. Bozak is 5th in the team in points. Maroon is 11th. Fabry is 18th. Robert Thomas is 9th. Jordan Kyrou is 20th, and Jordan Nolan is 23rd, but those two bottom ones haven't played a full season. They both played 11 games. And Zach Sanford is 15th. Now, for the goalies, Chad Johnson was 2-6, and Jordan Binnington had only played 2 games at the time but didn't start any, and had a save percentage of .840 with a .351 goals against. Jake Allen has not been so hot with a 13-12-4 for the first half of this season, and with posting a .900 goals or save percentage with a .307 goals against, and he had a shutout. But if you look at the league leaders,
goals: Vladimir Tarasenko 28, followed by Brayden Schenn with 18 and Alexander Steen with 17.
If I'm going to stop you right there. I did not know Alex Steen was that high up in the goals and points leading stuff. And he has not done too well this year, so
yeah,
you see he did pretty well at the end of last season.
Assists: Brayden Schenn with 33, Vince Dunn with 28, which really surprised me. I had no idea.
Same, that surprised me.
And then third place is a tie between Alex Pietrangelo and Jaden Schwartz with 25. And then points: Brayden Schenn 51. I expected that. He had a great great season last year.
Yeah, he did. 70 points, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Tarasenko with 50 in second, and third, Steen with 41.
That surprised me when I read that.
Yeah, I don't know who I would have. Probably Schwartz is who I would have said.
Yeah. Or Pietrangelo after his assist total. And I think he had 8 goals in the first half, but I'm not. Or the first half of the 2018 calendar.
And then wins: Jake Allen with 22, Carter Hutton with 11, and Chad Johnson with 2.
Yeah. Carter Hutton's, though, were all first half.
Yeah.
Chad Johnson's 2 were second half, obviously, because that's when we had both of them. And Jake Allen had 22, which I didn't surprise me, but with the year that he had last year, I was surprised that he had 9 last year, I think is what he had. I might not have the total written down here. He had 13. So yeah, he had 9 in the first half, and that surprised me with how many he had in the first half. Mm-hmm. Which I know in March that he had that kind of resurgence that kind of got us to a playoff spot.
Yeah,
and then he fell again in the first week of April.
Then save percentage: Carter Hutton .922. Which is pretty good. And
really, I mean, NHL average for a whole season, but for that time was pretty decent.
Yeah. Followed by Jake Allen with .899. So, not good.
Not good at all.
Yeah. And followed by Chad Johnson's .884.
Really not good.
Yeah. And goals against average mirrors that a little bit. Hutton's 2.31, followed by Allen 3.03, and then Binnington passed up Johnson in his two appearances.
I should have put maybe a restrictor to where maybe they had to play 5 appearances.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny that in 2 appearances, Binnington had a better goals against than Chad Johnson.
Yeah, 3.51, so not good at all.
Not good at all.
And those were relief appearances. So.
Yeah.
Then shutouts, Hutton had 2, Allen and Johnson had 1 each.
Yeah, Jake Allen's shutout came on December 7th of 2018, And before that, his last shutout was December 7th, 2017.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The Blues, they're really, the only silver lining in that entire span was how well Brayden Schenn did in my eyes. That's basically it. And for the second half, it's Sundqvist, Nolan, who surprised me, Barbashev, who really surprised me. Sundqvist is actually blowing my mind with how well he's doing. It's like Tom Wilson knocked a goal scorer into him when he got his concussion.
He's fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so we're going to get to other NHL news. I don't think there's too much of it.
It's fine, I got time.
It looks like Wilson for Buffalo has cleared waivers, and so has Miroslav Svoboda from Nashville. He is on unconditional waivers for purpose of contract termination. So basically, I think he's going over to Europe to play, or Russia. Europe, or I don't know. There's two.
Eurasia.
Eurasia. Yeah. There's many leagues over there that he can go to. Wilson for Buffalo. Is that Scott Wilson?
Scott Wilson.
Scott
yeah.
Wilson. Were they just sitting him down, or do you know if they were also terminating his contract?
Yeah, they're just sitting him down. I guess someone came back from injury. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure who's on Buffalo that was injured. I know it's not Berglund coming back.
Yeah.
Berglund, do you think he will play over in Sweden?
I don't know. That seems like there's more to the story than anyone's letting on. So,
yeah. If any of you guys do not know about that story, Patrik Berglund told the Buffalo Sabres that he was sick when he really was actually partying up in New York City. And when he didn't report to the team's plane to go on the road, they began the process of terminating his contract. Berglund agreed with it because he didn't want to play in Buffalo. And the more to that story is that he did not submit his no-trade list to St. Louis before we traded him.
Didn't know that.
Doug Armstrong contacted his agent and said that they had missed the deadline, and so we included him in the trade for Ryan O'Reilly.
Oh.
And he did not want to play for Buffalo, and so he, I guess, did that when he started getting scratched, is when he started to be sick. And so they terminated his contract, and he now is not on a team. So I don't know if he's going to go over to Sweden and play. I think that's his best bet, play the rest of the season out with Sweden, because he's from Sweden. That's his home country, so he could play over there, stay home, close to his parents. But if he doesn't play or find a team to play with, I think his career might be done. I'm not going to lie, because, if he's not playing, obviously no one's going to want him.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the only team I could see bringing him back is possibly St. Louis, but they don't have the cap space to do it, and he would not be playing in the NHL. And, I know, and Doug Armstrong, he's not against bringing players back. Obviously, look at David Perron. But it'd be a surprise to me if they brought Patrik Berglund back.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
I also do not. So, some other news in the National Hockey League. Mitch Marner will not talk contract until the season ends. That's what his agent says. I guess that's okay for the Maple Leafs, but they, at the end of the season, have to sign him and Austin Matthews, which is going to be tough for both of them. It was tough for Nylander, and that's just one.
Yeah.
I don't think Marner or Matthews will hold out. If they do, they got problems over there in Toronto.
No, Matthews could ask for maximum, and Toronto's going to give it to him.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I don't think he'll do that, because I think everyone in Toronto is aware of the situation where if they want to stay competitive, they have to take maybe not as much as they could on the open market.
Like, take a look at Sidney Crosby's contract.
Yeah.
8.7, which obviously that's his number. But if he takes anything higher than that at the time of his signing, Pittsburgh does not win 2 back-to-back Stanley Cups at all. There is no way. There's no way they keep Malkin even.
Mm-hmm.
Some other news, Jimmy Howard was in some rumors earlier this year, and it has come out that he hopes to end his career with the Red Wings. I'm not sure if that happens, seeing that he's a UFA at the end of this year.
Yeah.
I don't think the Red Wings will re-sign him, especially with their, I guess, rebuild that they're kind of in. If I was Detroit's GM, I would definitely not re-sign him. If we're going for like a high pick, which they had 6th overall. I think last year they got Philip Zadina.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was them, I would not re-sign him, and I'd go with, like... I mean, if I was in their position, I'd trade for Jordan Binnington and use him as my starter to see how he can do and get us a low pick or a high pick, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, who's Detroit's backup?
I think it's Jonathan Bernier, and he signed for 3 years.
Well, I was going to say they could always trade Howard at the deadline and re-sign him in the summer as a backup, but since Bernier's locked up, I don't see how that makes much sense.
I don't either. Nikita Kucherov is the first to 70 points.
No surprise there.
No. He's already at it. I cannot believe that. Vladimir Tarasenko is the last man in vote for the St. Louis Blues, and I would have rather seen it be Oscar Sundqvist, in my opinion, or Barbashev, or anybody but Tarasenko. Surprised he was one of them. I guess because he's a star, obviously. Yeah. And it's the All-Star game, but he is the lowest in plus-minus for the Blues. He's got a minus 14 rating after last night's game. Healthy Predators finding their game, and I just looked at the standings not too long ago, and I was surprised Winnipeg was above Nashville.
Yeah, wasn't Winnipeg off to a slow start?
They were off to a slow start. Patrick Laine was off to a really hot start and has since cooled down. I saw last night he's a minus, I think, 8, or he's minus right around there, and which surprised me because he started off super hot, and I thought he'd be on pace for not Wayne Gretzky numbers, but Alex Ovechkin numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, he is. His goal to assist ratio is 3-1.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's got 24 goals and 8 assists.
So he's on good pace.
Yeah.
Pekka Rinne is in top form according to this article, and it's about time. He's always usually in top form until the playoffs.
Yeah.
One more thing before we switch topics real quick. Corey Crawford, his career is quite possibly done because of concussions.
Yeah, it sucks.
It does. Especially for my fantasy team. He was one of my goalies, and now I have no one.
I guess Chicago's probably going to start looking toward a long-term goalie fix.
Jake Allen?
No,
I'm kidding.
They aren't going there.
No.
Maybe Howard. He's not too long-term, but if they want to, I don't know if they want to compete right now or because it's kind of hard to tank with those contracts for Taves and Kane. Yeah, and it would not. I mean, it would surprise me if they traded both of them. I know when NHL 19 is not real life, but about 3 years in, they always decided they're wanting to trade both of them, which surprises me because if you got two players like that, I mean, locked up forever, they could do some damage. Yeah. I think the big problem for them is Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook. The thing about the Keith contract, though, is the money is not bad on that. It's, I think it's about $5.5 million. Yeah. But it's like for 5 more years. Oh, so. It's until he's like, I think 42. Yeah. And he's already up there in age. It's the Seabrook contract that's really terrible. It really is. Would you like to see the Blues somehow get Dion Phaneuf? No. No? I would not either. Did they just trade for him? No. That would be nuts. I don't know what that would include. I think we would probably get him for like a 4th rounder. And LA has to eat another half of his salary. Oh, yeah, for sure. The contract situation for the Blackhawks. Brent Seabrook is signed until 2023-2024. And he's already 33, so by then, say 33, 4, 5, he'll be 38, giving whenever his birthday is, possibly 38 when his contract's up, and the contract's worth $6.875 million, combined with Keith at $5.538, which is pretty good for Keith, but he's 35 and his contract's not up until 2022-2023. Then you got Kane and Taves to the identical contract, same length. And then you have Brendan Saad. That was probably, I don't know. Look, so they traded him away because they couldn't fit under the cap. Kane and Taves went to Scotty Bowman and said, we want Saad back.
And so Bowman traded
Panarin.
And that's where the Blackhawks began to crumble right there, trading Panarin. Now they have Chris Kunitz, who I don't even think plays many games. I keep forgetting he's on their team.
Yeah. And
they moved Hossa because he was, quote-unquote, allergic to the equipment. They have Cam Ward. Corey Crawford's on long-term IR, so nothing good over there for the Blackhawks. But for some reason, when they were winning the Cups, teams were helping them out by helping them move their cap space around, which surprises me because if I'm a GM and Stan Bowman comes to me and is like, hey, I need to move this cap space around, I just won the Cup, can you help me out? I'd have been like, no.
Well, if he offers you Teuvo Teravainen, then...
Okay, yeah, you're actually right. I definitely would have took that.
I would probably take that deal.
I definitely would have. But Brendan Saad, though?
That was a weird trade. That was for Anisimov, wasn't it?
Yes. Actually, I'm not sure. It might have been.
I think it was.
I don't know, but it's been fun for the first episode. I think that's going to do it today. I'm Jared, and that's Colin.
Yeah.
And I guess we're going to say goodbye, and we'll hopefully be back next week. We'll find a date and a time, and maybe I'll tweet it out. That's going to do it. We'll see you next time.
Follow Jared on Twitter. The link is in the description.
This has been Center Ice Chats presented by TSJ 101 Sports, where sports meets common sense.